What's going on, guys? So you're probably wondering why I have all of these jack stands and jacks laying out in front of me. The reason for this is because there's a lot of folks who want to take on some of the projects that I do themselves. They want to know that they can go into their garage or their shop and they can start lifting stuff up, stabilizing stuff, and working on them in a way that you see in some of my videos as well as a lot of other YouTube creators. But the reality is you have to have the right equipment. And in front of me is a sample of the jacks that I have. Now I probably have another 8 that are missing from this picture only because they're behind things or they're currently in use. But I wanted to go over some of the products that I use specifically to do some of the work that you see me do on my channel. Hang tight, I'll be right back. Alright, so why am I making this video? Well, I do a lot of videos showing how I install suspension upgrades, showing how I've replaced parts, showing how I've done modifications, and a lot of those projects require that I can stabilize and support something heavy in the air, whether it's an RV, whether it's a dump trailer, whether it's my truck or an SUV, a lawnmower, doesn't matter. Having the appropriate type of support is incredibly important. Utilizing jacks that have the right capacity, the right reach, as well as the right safety feature is also super important. So I wanted to go over some of the tools that I use whenever I work on my RV, and this might give you an example of why you need such a diverse array of jack stands as well as jacks to do different types of projects. I only have these 2 floor jacks right now. I had some smaller, lighter duty ones, but unfortunately they wore out. So I have 2 3-ton floor jacks right here. I have an old Craftsman one that I've had forever, and then I also have this Husky one, which is a more lower profile. This one's designed to get in areas that you traditionally wouldn't be able to fit something like that, or a traditional hydraulic bottle jack. Now this one right here, which is the Power Mountain, is relatively new. You guys probably saw the video I did on that one where it has all sorts of extensions and accessories to be able to lift from different parts of a vehicle in really weird scenarios, and it has a really wide base. Out of everything here, it probably has the most stability on a flat surface because of how large that base is. Now, under what scenario would you want to use like a floor jack? Well, floor jacks are really good at getting something up in the air that's relatively heavy, but not super heavy until you can put a jack stand underneath it. So if I'm going to be lifting up the RV to do work on the axles, something like that, I might utilize a floor jack to get under the axle, but being cautious of how I cradle the axle because you don't have a lot of flexibility with that here. You can buy different types of cups that can sit in here, but you would have to get one specifically for axles if you wanted to be safe with axles, because you don't want to put a flat piece of support underneath a rounded tube, if that makes sense. You just don't want to risk deforming the tube because you're applying too much pressure to one area. But these do a great job, again, of getting something up until you put one of these underneath it. And we've used these for all sorts of different trailer applications and vehicle applications and tractor applications. So having a nice, strong floor jack is really important. And if you're going to be doing RV work or heavy pickup truck work, I would definitely recommend a 3-ton floor jack at minimum. Like I said, these work out really well. This one being a low profile definitely comes in handy, and it's also a little bit more to maneuver versus this older school Craftsman that I have right here. But they both work really well. The challenge some folks have with these are that they're not super precise when you're trying to lower or bleed the pressure off so you can slowly lower this portion of it. So just keep that in mind. You got to be really, really careful how you relieve the pressure to allow the jack to come back down. I have a scissor jack here, and I actually have 4 of these. Well, I have 2 of these and 2 that are slightly lower rated. This one right here is rated at like 8,000 pounds. It is a very, very, very heavy duty scissor jack, and where these come in handy for me is if I need to get extra support under something that I won't have the flexibility and maneuverability that I'll need with the floor jack. So for instance, if I'm gonna lift up something heavy and I just wanna add a little bit more stability and reinforcement, I can literally just slide this underneath. I can use an impact driver and I can just raise this up to where it's touching whatever I'm trying to support. When you're dealing with jacks like this, you have to relieve the weight of your floor jack to bring it back down so it's cradled on top of your jack stand. And sometimes that's not possible. So I have, again, 4 of these. I have 2 of these large ones, and then I have 2 that are smaller that I utilize for kind of odd stabilizing tasks. Okay, so as we look at the bottle jacks, I have, again, this one's new. I have 2 of these and I have 2 of these. This right here is actually really cool. This is an air inflatable bottle jack. So you can manually raise it. You can also connect it to an air compressor and you can raise it as well. 20 tons, 40,000 pounds. So this one right here is like extreme duty. I would primarily use this one if I have to lift something really, really heavy and I need to be very precise with how I lift it. So this is going to be my strongest jack, but it has some height to it. It's about 10 inches tall, which means there's some areas you might not be able to fit it. And if that's the case, you really can't use it. If you can't fit a jack where it needs to go, then ultimately it's a waste because you can't use it. So I have 2 of these for very heavy lifting applications. I really only ever need like 1 at a time, but if I ever needed more than 1, I know that I have an extra one. And then I have 2 of these. These are actually 12,000 pound low profile bottle jacks. This is really, really nice because I can get this into a very, very tight area. It's only about 5 inches tall when it's fully in its seated position or its lowest position, and it comes in real handy. And then I have some cradles right here that are designed to cradle axles. So this gives me the ability to support an axle without applying too much pressure to just one flat area, which is a really, really good thing, like we mentioned when we were talking about the floor jacks. And then I have a whole assortment of jack stands. Now this is because there are some things that sometimes you need a jack stand under that's really low to the ground. And that's where these 3-ton, relatively small jack stands come in handy. They are lightweight, they're light duty, and they're just designed for things that are lower to the ground that I might not be able to get a taller jack under. But when it comes to working on RVs, most of the time you do have a relatively high area that you have to reach. Now if I'm working from an area where I can make frame contact with a relatively short jack stand, then I'll usually utilize these. But in most cases, I actually really can't utilize any of these 4 on trailers because they're so high off the ground, unless I'm just putting it underneath the A-frame section because I'm working on a tongue jack or something like that. That's where these 6-ton jacks and these 12-ton jacks really come in handy. These give you a tremendous reach to really raise these up and cradle the frame of higher trailers like 5th wheels and some travel trailers. I can raise these jacks up incredibly high so I can get right up to the frame and have the support I need with 12 tons worth of support. 6 tons right here, again, still a very, very capable jack. It still gives me a lot of height that I might need for a travel trailer, but traditionally when it comes to RVs, travel trailers and 5th wheels, this is what I go to. I use a combination of these for almost every task whenever I'm working on RVs. When I'm working on smaller trailers or vehicles, that's really where these 3 come in really handy. And they can also come in handy if you need something to support like an axle, where you have the RV being supported by this stuff, and then you use these really short ones to support an axle because the axle tube sits relatively close to the ground. I also am sure that I get the ones that have the curve right here to specifically support axles and how curved they are, because that's going to be really, really important. With bottle jacks, again, that is not something you want to support an axle with or something that could deform, so I get the cradles specifically to work with those. But I just wanted to give you guys an overview of what I use, and you know, as a YouTube creator and someone who works in a shop quite often, I always want to be sure that I have the equipment I need whenever I'm starting a project. It can be very, very stressful and even dangerous to find out you don't have the right piece of equipment for whatever you're trying to do, and you find yourself in a situation to where you try to make it work with something else. You try to get another tool that's not designed for a purpose to serve a purpose, and you ultimately can find yourself in a very dangerous situation. But again, this is just an example. If you have an RV and you want to do RV work, always having an excessive number of jack stands and jacks is probably going to be your best thing, because there's so many scenarios where you're like, I'm using all of my jack stands, I'm using all of my jacks, and I just need one more to raise something that I didn't think I needed to raise, or support something that I didn't think I needed to support until I'm in the middle of my project. And then you're making a trip to the store to try to find one. These are kind of cool because these have this really cool secondary safety that slides in. So basically you put this up to the height you want, and then this slides in right here, and it acts as a protection just in the case the handle attempts to get lifted or gets kicked, it's not going to drop down. So this is a really nice safety precaution that only my 6-ton jacks actually have. But what do you guys think? What does your shop setup look like when it comes to stuff like this? How many jack stands do you have? How many bottle jacks? How many floor jacks do you have? And do you use any kind of creative type of jack for other purposes just in case you need it? Anyways, guys, please drop a comment below. I would love to know what your thoughts are on this topic. This is an important one for me. And even if you have any best practices or suggestions of equipment that I might be able to use to make my life a little easier out here, drop them in the comment section, because I'd love to know as well. Guys, I sure hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will try to put some of this stuff in the video description in case case you want to find a really quick way to get them from Amazon shipped to you, so you don't have to go searching for which one you might think is the right one. I can just put some of the ones that I use in the description of this video for you, in case you just want to kind of point and click and just have them shipped to you. Anyways, guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment below, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.